Excel has more than 240 function words built in, but there are 5 common ones that most people will use on a regular basis. Now, a function word is a formula that Microsoft have pre-written, and it does all the hard work for us. So we're going to look at these 5 most common ones and how you use the auto functions. Now, if you look at the sheet in front of us, we have in the first section here our daily sales figures. Now we want to add these up to give us the weekly sales. Now we don't particularly want to write this manually, because if we did, this would be Monday's figure added to Tuesday's figure, added to Wednesday, added to Thursday, and you can see that it becomes a little bit laborious. So we're going to use probably one of the most common function words in Excel. It's called AutoSum. The word itself is called sum, which means add up, and we're going to use this function to add the weekly figures up. Now the way you use this is you start by clicking where you want your answer to appear, as you do with all formulas. If you then look on the home ribbon over at the far right, there should be a button called AutoSum. Now, if your screen isn't of a widescreen variety, you may not see the word AutoSum written next to it. You may just have the symbol of the sigma sign on the button. If we click on the button itself, and you'll notice that this particular button does have a drop down menu associated with it, as there is a little triangle next to this button. But I'm going to click directly on the button, and what this does is that Excel will guess whereabouts you want the area to be added up. Now you can see it puts this border around the area. On earlier versions of Excel, you would see the border moving. It would be almost marching ants travelling around the numbers. But here we can see it's put this border around the sales figures, and if you look at the formula that's been written for us, it has the equals, which if you don't know is how all formulas begin, with an equals. It then has the word sum. Now the word sum just means add up. And then in brackets it has a range of cells, in this case C5 colon to C11. In other words, it's saying to Excel, can you add up all the numbers from C5 through to C11? And what we do is that we look at that, we check it's right, and then we press enter. And I'll show you how to correct it if it guesses wrong in just a moment. We press enter and you'll notice it's now put the total at the bottom. Now we can do the same for the next one. We would click where we want the answer to go, and we want to see the number of purchases in value that we made over the week. So we click where we want the answer. We click back on the AutoSum button. You'll notice the program guesses the area we want to include in the addition. We press enter because it looks to me as though it's got it right, and it adds them up. The last one is the number of patients here over the week that we've dealt with. We click where we want the answer, click on the AutoSum, it's guessed right, we press enter. And that's how simple this is. The AutoSum adds up. So with AutoSum, it doesn't always guess right. And let's give you an example here. You'll notice we've got several sales figures for each of these years. And what they're looking for down the bottom here is the 5-year total. In other words, it wants to add up all of those numbers. Just like before, we click where we want to place the answer, and I want it to go in this cell here. Now if you think about it logically, when I click AutoSum, it's very unlikely that Excel will know the range of numbers I want to add up. However, it will have a guess. Let's click on AutoSum. Now, can you see the problem we've got here is that Excel believes we want to add up these numbers in the F2 to F7 range. It is even taking the year 2016, which is not what we want. Now, when you see this happen, you ignore it. And what I mean by that is that with your mouse, you don't try and grab the edge or stretch it. You ignore the guess that it's had, and with your mouse, you move over to here, and I'm going to click and drag to say, actually, this is the area that I would like you to add up. So all you're doing is correcting its guess. You ignore its guess and just drag your mouse over the area that you want it to add up. Once you've done that, you can hit the Enter key. We can repeat this with the information down the bottom. I'm going to click where I want the answer, and they want the total year figure. Now again, it's very unlikely that Excel, when I click on AutoSum, is going to guess correctly. It's not going to know that I want to add up these 4 sales figure numbers for the 4 quarters. But it will have a guess. And if you click on AutoSum, there you can see it thinks I just want to add up that number there. But we ignore that, and with our mouse, we move over to where we want to start and say, I want you to pick up this number right through to this number. So I just drag my mouse. The trick here is you always drag your mouse over the bunch of numbers that you want included in the calculation. Again, we hit Enter to complete, and there's the answer. Now, as well as being able to add up very quickly a range of numbers, it is possible to use another function word called average, which will perform the same task but give you an average answer. So if we look at our weekly sales here, once again I click where I want the answer to go, and then we return back to the AutoSum, but we don't click the button itself. We click the little drop down triangle next to AutoSum, and it will pop down a context menu. Here you can see Microsoft have put the 5 most common: sum, which as we know adds up; average is the one we're about to use, which will work out the average; count numbers, that does exactly as it states, it counts the numbers. So if we was counting those figures for the week, it would come up with the number 7 because there's 7 days there. The function word max and min return the highest value and the lowest value. So I'm going to choose average. Once again, it does its guesswork, and we just need to hit the Enter key. But just note, the formula no longer has the word sum after the equals, it has the word average. So in other words, it's telling Excel, can you average this range of numbers? We press Enter and it gives us an average. Now there is another way some people like to use these auto functions. Instead of getting the program to guess what you want to add up or average or count, you can tell it in advance, and we do that by highlighting. Before I click the button, I could highlight with my mouse, click the left mouse button and drag it down to where I want the answer to go. So you'll notice I've highlighted from here all the way down to the blue box. Now because we've told Excel in advance of what we want to average or add up or count, then when we come to use our function word from here, in this case average, you'll notice that it doesn't guess and wait for us to confirm it. it puts the answer straight in. We can do the same with this one. I can highlight down to where I want the answer to go. Click on the average and it puts the answer in. Now just to complete this exercise on the auto functions, some people ask, why do we get it to guess? Why don't we highlight our numbers to begin with in all cases? Well, that's not always possible. And let's go back to this demonstration where we want the 5 years added up and put here. We cannot highlight these numbers and get down to here, this cell down here where I want the answers. You'll notice it's highlighted all of these cells here as well, including the title, 5-year total. So there are times when you have to get it to guess, even when you know it's going to guess wrong. Now it's worth getting used to this, correcting the guess, because it becomes very useful. If I click my cursor over here and click AutoSum, you'll notice that because there are no numbers above or below or to the left or right of that cell, it doesn't even guess. But that's not a problem, because now with my mouse I can come over and say I want to add up these figures here, and I can just drag my mouse over the area that I want the numbers added up, and when I hit my enter key it then adds up those numbers. So it allows you to freely choose what part of the sheet you want to pick up for your calculation. And that's the AutoSum and auto functions.